Well, first of all, I'm honored and pleased to be here on stage with all of you because of really the success that each of you have had within your brands creating incredible mobile app experiences. Maybe what would be helpful, because I've gotten to know each of you, I'm going to actually pass the baton to you to introduce yourselves to the audience and give them a little flavor of what you do. Karen, if it's okay, I'll start with you.
Okay, yeah. I'm Karen and I work for Bauer Media. You've probably read or buy one of our magazines or listened to one of our radio stations. So we're best known for titles like Grazia, Empire, Mojo, Motorcycle News, those types of titles. So over the last, what feels like 10 minutes, but it's been 9 months, we are in the process of transforming our subscriber business. So obviously we have a huge amount of information about our customers. We know what they love because they've chosen to buy Mojo or Empire. And what we've done, and we've just launched to market, so we're very new at the moment, is that we are turning our subscription business into more of a membership. So rather than kind of adding the weight from an acquisition point of view, where we're using third-party gifts and stuff to kind of drive people to become members, we're looking at baking in value throughout the whole of the customer life cycle. So what that means in reality is that they now have access to a member-only app and a website, and throughout the whole of their life period, they will get more content from us. Our app becomes a live stream of the printed version of the title. They'll get access to the editorial teams, which you just can't get if you're buying straight from the newsstand. And my job as head of rewards and partnerships is where I'm adding value to those customers by working with third parties to really kind of help our customers get more from what they love, their passion, whether it be walking or music, and encouraging them to do more of what they love. So very much working with third-party brands, so at no cost to us as such, to use those particular partnerships to drive engagement by, I use the airship model, obviously, but to use those kind of things to actively drive engagement and provide, value to the customers, but reassuring them also know that we understand them, that we're giving them the right things at the right time that we know that they want.
That's great, thank you. Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy Hulse. I'm CRM Operations Manager for the BBC, which is great because if you say BBC to people, you don't have to explain it. It's just the BBC. And watching that video, I mean, I've seen it dozens of times, but it's still, it's still just the variety of what we do is just quite incredible. I look after a very specific area, direct audience engagement and CRM. The sort of relationship with Airship is really around two key apps. I mean, the BBC has got lots of apps, but iPlayer and Sounds are the two key areas where I'm involved. Sport and news to a certain extent, not as much as iPlayer and Sounds, but really my part in the whole process is we've got all these great bits of content that we need people to engage more with. And how technically can we do that? So I'm kind of 50% marketing and 50% technically. How are we going to do that, Andy? How's that going to work? And so I work with Airship, and we work with Salesforce as well because that plays a key part in our data. And yeah, that's it really. I think it's
super. Well, so BBC may not need any introduction and existed long before mobile apps. Gareth, not the case with Olio.
Yeah, I mean, Olio, so I'm Gareth, I'm Director of Growth and BI Business Intelligence at Olio. Olio is a local sharing app where if you have something that would otherwise go to waste into the bin, you are Marie Kondo your life, you can essentially share it with someone in your local community. So it's all about recycling and reuse and making sure that we're not putting things into landfill. Yeah, I mean, we need no introduction, but, over 10 million downloads of our app now. Sharing on Olio has happened in 63 countries across the world. So we're doing all right. my responsibility broadly is, acquisition, retention, growth, business intelligence. But a few of my team are in the room, so I've got to say that they do all the work, and I can't take all the credit for it, which is what I usually do when they're not around. So that is us really. But yeah.
It is quite impressive what you've been able to accomplish. And your app is around a mission that has connection to the planet. While I'm conscious that the app is relatively young in the world of apps, curious whether or not the focus or the approach to the app has shifted at all since you've introduced it.
Yeah, massively. So, Tessa and Sasha, our two co-founders, are, hugely inspirational, and they founded the app essentially around food waste. So the challenge of food waste, a couple of stats off the top of my head, an area the size of China is used to grow food every year that we never eat. It never gets eaten by anyone. 50% of food waste in the world happens in the home. So people think of food waste and they think about, oh, well, what are Tesco doing and what are restaurants doing and what are shops doing? But it's us as a society, really, that are doing that waste. Now, the main challenge, or how we've had to adapt over the last, couple of years, is actually broaden out the use case. So it's an interesting thing with food waste. Like, people are just in a state of denial generally, including me, including all of us, where, if we have an apple on the side, we're going to just say, okay, well, I'll eat that apple tomorrow. I don't want it today. It's like, okay, then the next day they'll go, oh, you know what, I'm not going to eat today, I'll eat it tomorrow. And then the cycle continues until they go, well, I can't eat the apple now because it's gone off. So that hurdle of getting people to suddenly start sharing food is much bigger, which is why we then broadened it out to non-food and household items, because that was a better way of getting product market fit. And sharing has happened long before Olio started. It's pretty much as long as man's been around. So that's ultimately how we've had to adapt in order to grow, as well as our monetization is working with Tesco and Iceland and companies like that to reduce their food waste as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting example of pivoting or expanding or modifying pretty much on the fly. Andy, BBC's been around for quite some time.
100 years.
How has the app evolved as it relates to the primary mission of the brand?
Well, I think the app plays a really important part in, I think people probably recognize this, whatever app they've got, about creating habit in terms of what people are doing. And, the focus really very much is creating a daily habit of people actually using the app and using it on a regular basis. So I think initially, if you go right back to when iPlayer, say, first started, it was just, hey, look, we've got programs on demand. That was just an amazing thing in itself. But now, years later, it's all moved on now, and it's really more about just becoming more sophisticated about that level of engagement and trying to get people to a state where they're doing it and they're not even thinking about doing it, if you see what I mean. So I think that's the key thing. Unconscious daily habit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Karen, when we were talking beforehand, you had told me that Bauer was in the mobile app arena very early, but you've had a little bit of a restart.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, it feels when I talk about it that we're a bit 2000 and late to say, ooh, we've got some apps. We've had apps for a very long time, and I think it was kind of back in the late 90s that we moved a lot of our publications over, but I think we were a bit too early to the market. But obviously, pretty much like every brand throughout the pandemic, we saw, obviously, our newsstand figures going down because you couldn't go out to buy the publication, and our subscription piece went literally through the roof. So, kind of being relevant and also giving customers a choice of how they read their content is really important, and adding that kind of spin on it in terms of, the news apps and things like that. Say, for example, if you are a member of Empire, all of the content from the printed version is in the app, but if we have an incident, again, like, Will Smith smacking Kid Rock around the face, we're able to put that into our apps immediately and then use notifications to draw attention to those kind of things, but also kind of surface content that we wouldn't normally be putting out into the printed version. So really kind of to drive that added value. So being part of a membership gives you so much more. And that's the kind of the real difference, because I think, I don't know if anybody of you, we all started walking through the pandemic. We've got a title called Country Walking. That is exponentially gone through the roof. And as a result, we've launched a sub-brand called Walk 1,000 Miles on it, which literally has hundreds of thousands of people that subscribe to it now. So being able to give people more and more of what they love really kind of creates that stickiness and that kind of dependency. And with my particular role about then helping to put money back in people's pockets, it kind of makes it a no-brainer not to leave, I think.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're very new.
So you're a subscription business, and I think the natural inclination, I think you started this, Bauer started this initially, was to repurpose the content into an app or some online vehicle. You've now taken a different tact, which is to complement the printed subscription with a mobile experience that gives them the up-to-date, real-time insights, but also gives you a platform around enhancing some of those experiences, which we'll talk about in a moment. We've heard a lot from the other presenters here today about the initiatives that they have around the mobile app lifecycle and acquisition and activation and engagement and loyalty and so on. So I'm not going to ask that question and what you're doing in that area, but a lot of the use cases and examples we've heard are ultimately cross-functional in the way they get implemented in an organization. There's some element of marketing and technology. Andy, you happen to have some responsibilities across that. I'm curious if in your organizations implementing a use case is something that requires multiple disciplines or functions, and if so, how do you keep that coordinated to make sure these happen at the speed of mobile? Gareth, maybe you have some comments, or Andy, it looks like you had a thought.
Yeah, sure. I mean, working with the BBC, if you've got 35,000 people, then and they're all over the country, then clearly, there's a lot of cross-functionality in terms of when you're doing stuff. So yeah, and very much so. But it's really good because the teams work together very well. And they all know which bit they're focused on, so they know exactly what they can contribute to, what they own, what we own, what's up for discussion. It usually works very well.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, obviously, we are a mobile, or not quite exclusively, but very much mobile-focused organization, and significantly smaller than the BBC. So, but everything we do, by definition, is really cross-functional, and the way we sort of structure it is a lot more fluidly, and so it's lots of teams sort of built around themes, so it's less about the hierarchical structure, like this person reports to this person, and they report to that person, but more around intelligent people in a room, or remotely, because we're a 100% remote company, but intelligent people working on themes and problems that are obvious in the data. So, well, those are the opportunities, those are the things we go after. And really, like how we hire people, which is going a little off-piste, but how we hire people is really around people who care, people who are kind, people who are aligned with the mission, and also are high performers as well. And also, this isn't because they're in the room, but also high performers, but people you can trust to go off and get the job done, whether that's in their own function or cross-functionally or whatever. So that's how we do it.
Well, I met some of your colleagues earlier today, and it is clear that their commitment to their passion around the cause is a major driver, and so I think that is an important part of moving things forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when we were, I mean, this is before my time at Olio, but when we were bootstrapping the app, it was ultimately people who cared deeply for the cause, without necessarily the expertise to take it to the level that we've taken it to now. Now in the last, I can say this because they're all relatively new to the company, but in the last year we've been hiring people with that that same drive, but actually have the experience and the background to deliver it and take us to where we need to get to.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it's an important component or ingredient in success, certainly in a fast-paced environment like mobile, moving at the speed of mobile. Karen, you are pushing a lot of initiatives within Bauer, and you're doing some things that are truly innovative and working with offline partners. How do you get those integrated into this initiative that requires really a lot of moving pieces to come together?
Absolutely. Well, kind of just to kind of circle back on what you were saying, kind of this particular project has touched every single department at Bauer, and those of you who might work in the media industry understand how tricky editors can be. So kind of, working with the digital team, the commercial teams, because obviously the head of the reward space, I'm leveraging partnerships that we've already got with advertisers, brands like Disney, that kind of thing, that are spending money with us on our publications, but also going out to brands that have never advertised with us for whatever reason that may be, but engaging with them. But, kind of at the very heart of it, we have really, really strong editorial propositions, titles that have been around a very, very long time. So half of my job has been done in terms of that, but strategy-wise, rather than, kind of going out to anybody to get added value to go into the app, my kind of approach is that everything that we do is directly linked to the subject matter of that particular title. So if you like walking, it will be walking boots, it will be, kind of B&B stays, that kind of thing. It won't be duvet sheets or packets of crisps or ice cream. Even though we know our customers are humans, they're not really tapping into that particular passion point. So that has actually been a massive driver for getting lots of different types of brands on within those passion points that potentially would never have considered working with us as a title before. So, kind of, I come from a loyalty background, and prior I was at O2, where you have to be something for everybody. But the loveliness about this is that we are absolutely demonstrating that we understand our customers and we're giving them what they want.
Yeah. That enhancement of value, I think, is really, really crucial.
Yeah.
I think we've heard a little bit today, and certainly witnessed, I think, all in our own careers or our mobile careers, that many times, mobile is viewed through the lens of a push. And we've certainly heard here today how creating mobile app experiences is the path to differentiation. How are each of you thinking about that in-app experience within your brand?
I mean, for us, it's really interesting. I promise. It's really interesting. Where my previous role, I was 7 years at The Guardian, so definitely understand the opinion on editorial people. But unlike The Guardian or the BBC or a news brand like that, a digital news brand, the act of sharing is not something you do every day. It's like if you're getting rid of a tea set or baby's clothing or food, you're not doing that every day. If you were, you'd be some sort of hoarder that's had a revelation. So what we have to understand, or what we've started to work out, is what are the triggers, what are the points, and so for us, it's someone will, on average, share something or a collection of things every month. Our best users would do that. But we're not naive enough to think like, okay, well, they're just waiting to share again on Olio, and as soon as they, it's just not how people work, and life gets in the way, so people get distracted. So what we've been working very hard on is understanding what are the actual points. I think it was mentioned earlier about sort of integrating with someone's life, and so we understand what their natural habits are, so we can reinforce those, particularly around push and in-app messaging, just to bring them back at the right time, rather than necessarily bombarding them every day and going, oh, share something else today and share something else today. So we know their natural habits. We know people are different. We know people have different schedules. So it's sort of segmenting and tapping into that with the right content and the right message at the right time.
It strikes me as you tell that vignette that it relates a little bit to one of the stories that Rusty told earlier, which about his purchase of coffee pods, because the experience is in drinking coffee, not purchasing pods. you have a somewhat similar challenge because the experience for a lot of people who share is the act of reuse or the act of helping somebody else with their need, yet you have an app that facilitates that, and that has to be a positive experience for them, or they may not do it again.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we talk about a lot internally is our rival being the bin. You know, nothing will be more convenient than just picking something up and chucking it in a dustbin, right? That's, you know, that's the easiest, quickest way of doing it. So the product experience just has to be as good as it can get with that. It needs to be smooth, and it needs to tap into how people are feeling, or the morals, the reason why people don't throw something into landfill. So yeah, but at the end of the day, if we create an experience that is irritating and really hard, and it just gets harder and harder, people will go just default to something that's easy in their lives. You know, that's the whole point of mobile apps, and the whole point of products is actually making people's lives easier. And so yeah, so we've got to, you know, make that experience like that.
Andy, you've got a segmentation responsibility within your remit. How are you leveraging that for this concept of in-app experiences?
Well, of course, with the BBC, we've got information from many sources. So we got behaviour information on listening and watching, you know, across many platforms. So it's one of those things where we're sort of trying to become more sophisticated with the way that we use that information when it comes to the sort of in-app experiences. I mean, it's fair to say that notifications have played a really significant part in the work that we've done, and maybe in-app experiences are maybe, you know, not as much. But, you know, as we go along, I think that they are going to be playing more of a part.
Absolutely. You know, Karen, a big part of your remit and your focus is on trying to create in-app experiences for customers around the partner relationships that you're bringing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, kind of like, we're not naive to know that, you know, of all the apps that you've got on your phone, you're not going to be probably within the first 2 or 3 that people access every day. So what we want to do, and I think, you know, kind of, we want to disrupt, but not be annoying disruptors by sending them stuff that they don't want to get. So we have, you know, kind of, my side is talking to them about, hey, you've got 20% off Bowden clothing for the Yours audience. But we also let consumers know when the new issue is dropped, because our memberships, you can buy a print and digital membership, but you can also just buy a digital membership if you want to. So if anybody, you know, forgets their Christmas present, you could get something on the Christmas Eve and it will be there for the morning. So we use, you know, let them know when the new issue's dropped, if there's new articles that are going on. But from a customer experience, we are kind of like widening that even more. So a couple of the titles that we've moved into this new area, we're giving our readers access to the editorial teams. So, you know, kind of, some of the titles would go out and about pre-pandemic, but now that's kind of, you know, that's expensive. And, you know, when you're dealing on a national product, when you're really, you know, focused on the London area, you're never going to get people coming down. So we're going to be moving, you know, again, 2008, but doing them quite differently in the next coming months on a handful of titles where you can actually interact with the editorial teams, because some of our editors are kind of superstars in our customers' world, and the chance to have a chat with Hattie from Grazia or Danny from Practical Classics literally would be life-changing for some of them. So that's what's, you know, that's what being part of a membership is about, having that kind of all access. So that's really what we're going to dial up in the coming months.
Well, and it's experiential things are a big part of what drives value, more so than transactional types of loyalty programs. And the data is proving that out with mobile app engagement. In fact, saw just a study the other day done by Apptopia, where they had shown that experiential loyalty programs were driving greater engagement after download than those that are transactional, which tend to fall off pretty quickly once that initial transaction or currency is earned. I'm gonna pivot a little bit if I can. Gareth, you've got business intelligence as part of your remit. Andy, you've got segmentation. I'm curious if you maybe could share with us the role that the testing plays in the way you approach the types of initiatives and use cases that you implement and how you measure the impact of them for your business.
I mean, experimentation is, everything really to us because, it's interesting, especially, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in the room can relate to product and engineering resource being at a bit of a premium and being a bit of a bottleneck in any businesses, which, I used to work at Amazon as well, and it was a bottleneck there, and if it's a bottleneck there, it's a bottleneck everywhere. And so in the absence of that, like testing and experimentation through, segmentation and being able, from the BI side, being able to identify segments and how they're moving or churning or sort of, in their experience with us, being able to identify those people and then sort of preempt it, and sort of experimenting around moving those themes that I mentioned earlier or moving those metrics, it's just vital. I mean, I can't imagine there's many sort of modern digital businesses that aren't just living and breathing experimentation. I mean, God knows how many tests and experiments we've done in the time I've been there, but it's well over 100, I'm sure, by this point. And I've been here 9 months. So.
Andy?
I'd have to agree with you, Gareth. I mean, at the end of the day, testing is sort of fundamental to what you do. And sometimes you do hit bottlenecks for certain things that you're trying to do. And the key thing there that we've always found is simplify. So simplify whatever it is that you're trying to get an answer on in the test. And that can usually get rid of the bottleneck, and you can sort of go, okay, I'm going to do a simple version of this first, and then if we get something positive out of it, and everybody internally goes, hey, wow, that was amazing, you can do a more complicated version of it. So you can iterate on it, as you go along.
The power of simplification is what I'm always bagging on about, because people overthink stuff all the time, and it's like if you just
Make it stupid simple.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think it's a really good point.
You can always have multiple stupid simples, right? It's if you can't read the results because it's so complicated, it doesn't really help.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go in a slightly different direction here, and I'm gonna ask each of you a question, which is, what is your favorite mobile app right now? But more importantly, why is it your app? Your favorite app?
I also co-own a cheese shop, which is one of the most random things I bring up at dinner parties.
What shop?
A cheese and wine shop.
Do you?
Yeah, so there we go.
Wow.
It's always the reaction I get is like, oh my God, that must be amazing. Why do you have to work anywhere else? It's like, well, one of them pays the mortgage, especially now. But yeah, so yeah, Little Mouse in South Norwood, if anyone wants a recommendation, just so I'd squeeze that in. But anyway, so the mobile app that I like isn't the Little Mouse one because it doesn't exist, but it's is Airtable. So it's very much a hybrid between database and spreadsheets. And what I love about it from a mobile app point of view is it's, if anyone's tried using Google Sheets, particularly on a mobile, it's clunky, it's awful. It's like, it's sort of it all works, but it's like not without pain. Whereas Airtable is like super smooth. Like it's you can literally have your phone put in a new field in the database and have it on. It just appears. It's just instantaneous and super useful and not clunky whatsoever. So, for our sort of subscription database, it's very easy to use for someone who's not very tech-minded like me to do as well. So, yeah, that's what I'd go with.
Ease of use driven by product design.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the sort of keeping it simple, doing what I'm there for correctly without me having to sort of shake it or sort of refresh it, which I seem to have to do with Google Sheets increasingly at the moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Simple. Andy?
Well, yeah, I mean, my favorite app does change all the time, usually just because somebody's shown me something else and I've gone, hey, wow, look at that, that's amazing. But Duolingo is something that I've been using for years, and the things I really like about it is the experience and the rewards and the way that it just keeps you in there and keeps you sort of chugging along. And it's also something that is actually part of our family as well. So my kids use it, and they're always trying to beat me in terms of how many points they've got and learn more languages than I can. So, it's that combination of experience, reward, and community, which I really like about it.
What's your streak up to, by the way?
Oh, I did about 130 days, but it's been a long time since then.
There's someone in our team that's in the thousands, and So.
Wow. But there you go. It's the gamification element of making sure that there's an accomplishment that people are committed to around challenges.
Yeah. I think mine play into that. So it would be Fitbit, obviously, you know, kind of that, hooray, you've done 10,000 steps. I'm like, yes. But also the little badges of Audible. You know, I love reading, but when I read a book, I fall asleep. So I listen to books now, and getting those badges that says I'm a night owl and stuff like that. So the gamification is really, you know, kind of key to me. But on the flip side of it, I'm not biased, but O2 priority for me, because I could buy tickets to go and see a band 2 days before they went on general sale. So that's looking at an app in a very different way, because that gives me exclusive access to get hold of things rather than giving me badges and rounds of applause.
So engagement and then experiential loyalty.
It's getting something before lots of other people can get it is really important to me as an individual.
Well, I am not surprised that the time flew, and I wish we had more time to continue this dialogue, because it's great to hear from folks that are innovating really on the front lines every single day about how to address business problems specifically through the lens of the mobile app. So I want to thank Gareth, Andy, and Karen for coming up and sharing their mobile app experiences and how they are creating mobile app excellence through their work at their brand. So thank you very much.